Hey everybody, this is Jim McDonald. Hope you're enjoying your holiday. I know we are, which is why we're not here with a new episode, but we don't want to leave you without, so we're going to rerun one of our favorites from the past, the Texas Rattlesnake himself, Mr. Stone Cold Steve Austin. If you get the urge to throw those holiday dollars somewhere, why don't you throw some of them at howmuchyoubench.net or thepowermagazine.com and bsnsupplements.com, bodybuilding.com, or at cavemancoffeeco.com, and the shop at supertraining.tv, which is shop.supertraining.tv. We'd appreciate it. Our sponsors would appreciate it, and it keeps this ball rolling. So anyway, let's play the music and enjoy the show.
PowerCast, sponsored by ThePowerMagazine.com, HowMuchYouBench.net, and BSN, makers of NO Explode. Look for BSN products at bodybuilding.com. Alongside Silent Mike and Jim McD, here's your host, Mark Bell.
Big hit is what?
There we go.
We're recording now?
Yes, we're recording now.
So, I'm glad to be back on my couch.
Hey, remember, stick to the script that we just wrote.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. You got the script?
I am so happy.
Jim, can you get the script for us?
Yeah,
I'm so
Where's the teleprompter?
happy that Justin Randall's gone. His big delts took up my couch.
He's so bloated, and it's hard to get a good read on how old that guy is, but he looks like he aged about 15 years from the last time I saw him, and I saw him about 2 years ago. So I'm not sure if he has some sort of flux capacitor.
A flux capacitor is probably the issue.
or what his deal is, but he's really not looking as handsome as he once was.
No, but he did say that he'd had a rough year. I know he had like 3 major injuries that caused him to have 3 big surgeries.
In 1 year?
In like
Whatever.
14 months or
Yeah,
18 months, something
Yeah,
like that.
HIV can really,
Puts a damper on things.
Puts a damper on the healing process.
really slow you down.
So, the recent article by the Lululemon owner.
Oh, the stretchy pants?
Yeah.
I love Lululemon.
So, I'm a big Lululemon fan, too.
I wonder if the pants smell like lemons.
No, I don't know why he named it that. But what he says in it is, I guess he gets a lot of complaints from large women, big girls. What?
Big booty hose.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That
I didn't know what you're talking about.
The inside of their crotchola rips and like balls, like it.
Wait. The inside of their crotch
Gets
of the
balls.
pants?
Yeah, the pants.
Gets
excuse
balls
me.
is what you're saying?
Yeah, gets balls.
Like cottony balls.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Everybody, I fucking get it on like my spandex and stuff
This
too.
just seems like too private. What are we doing? What are you talking
I don't
about
know,
here?
but and so he gets a lot of complaints, and he's like, well, fat girls shouldn't wear Lululemon.
I think if we talk about this too much, we're going to lose all of our sponsors.
Well,
Lululemon, I still want that jacket.
all of our female listeners.
All 3 of them.
All 3 of them, yeah.
Well,
My wife doesn't listen to this show, so I don't know about
My wife doesn't listen to it either, so I can say whatever I want.
Yeah.
I think it's too boring for her.
I don't
blame her.
All 5 of my wives don't listen to it.
I wouldn't listen to me either if I had the opportunity.
She doesn't listen to you at home. Why should she listen to you on the podcast?
Yeah, why would anything change? So Silent Mike's ST hat, which he's looking incredibly handsome today. He's got the hat totally straight on. It's not off to the side. He's not a cage fighter.
No.
But he has the brim is totally straight. And we were told by Ryan Higgins that it's a little too wigger-ish.
I didn't touch the brim. It was made this way, so I wear it this way. Do you manufacture and change your sweatshirts when you buy them, or you just put them on?
Yeah, do you crumple them up?
No, you just put them on.
Do you run over them with your car a couple times
Yeah,
and then put them on?
Yeah, what do you do with your panties? I just put on my panties. I don't freaking modify them before I put them on. It's not a Honda Civic.
He asked if the brim could be bent.
Oh, no, it's steel.
It's a steel.
It's impossible.
I don't know, how strong
steel-toed
are
hat.
you? Are you strong enough to bend?
Yeah, I can't
the
do
middle
it.
of the
Steel-headed
hat.
But I've always liked the term, and I only heard it a couple years ago, but it's called milk chicken. So instead of calling somebody a wigger, you call them a milk chicken, because milk is white, and you move your head like a chicken.
Are you
Milk
trying
chicken.
to Richie Incognito me right now?
I think I am.
I'll go to the big dog. I'll go to the owner of this whole facility.
Well, don't come to me about it. Just cry to everybody else about it and be a big bitch.
Why does that guy...
Why is that a fucking story? Give me a fucking...
Yeah, whatever.
Give me a
I'm over
goddamn-
it. Well, they just It's bad. Yeah, I'm against racism.
Whatever happened to giving somebody just a good old-fashioned stone-cold stunner and calling it a day?
Yeah, it would have been over. But why is it John Martin, the guy that was
Something
picked
like
on?
that,
Robert.
yeah.
He looks like he's 40. I just saw his
know.
picture. And his face is so wrinkly and he's so fat. He probably can't wear Lululemon.
Yeah, that's bad. Well, that could be why he's so upset.
God.
That might be it right
Let's
there.
talk about Lululemon a little bit more here for a second. God bless the owner. I think he's Canadian.
He is. That's why I thought it was so funny. He was like,
That's like the best thing to come out of Canada.
Yeah, he's like, fat people can't wear my stuff. I
He's
was
done
like,
a great job making women's asses look amazing.
he must hate Americans. Canadians aren't fat like us.
Lululemon makes me so hungry.
I
Wait,
don't,
huh? Lemon meringue pie?
You know they make men's clothes.
Oh, whoops. Whoops-a-daisy.
Milk chicken.
I was not aware of that. That would be.
See,
Yeah,
the guy,
I got a pair of their
the
boxers.
guy is a genius because he realized that if he's going to make yoga pants, that a bunch of white chicks are going to wear it. White chicks don't normally have much of an ass.
Yeah, no junk.
So this guy is so goddamn smart. He makes the waistband enormous and makes the actual butt small. So it makes every girl's butt look small and tight, even though we actually know the truth. And it actually kind of holds everything in, too. The pants are kind of form-fitting, so you got everything kind of stuffed in there just right.
Well, speaking of great asses, I love this story that was in the news today. You guys are actually not going to get this on the day that we recorded, but about in Russia, they have a new system in the subways where if you go into this machine and do a certain number of bodyweight squats, you get like a discounted subway fare.
No, you don't.
Yes, you do.
That's awesome.
Yes, you do. We need that shit. We need that on the freeways. You
They
can't
need
get on
a-
the freeway
A
unless you do some-
discounted $5 footlong?
Well, everybody that can squat over 500 gets free Chipotle.
That's amazing.
Ooh, for life?
Yeah, for life.
As long as you can still squat 500
Yeah,
pounds. you
that's
get
all
the
that matters.
Chipotle.
That's great.
That is great.
Yeah.
Never gets people moving around more.
Well,
Fuck.
why do they beat us in all weightlifting competitions? Duh.
They're over there squatting all the time.
Yep.
They're not just trying to fake it with a pair of Lululemon pants.
Yeah.
Did you guys know
those
that
fakers.
Lululemon pants originally they claimed to have had some mineral properties to them? They were supposed to like excrete minerals into
Yeah.
your body. It was like made out of like seaweed or
Yeah,
something like
algae
that.
or something. That
And
sounds
then
so
they were
weird.
found to be just a total crock of shit, and somehow the guy morphed it into some other company.
I don't want my pants to excrete anything on me.
No,
No, normally I excrete into my
Yeah,
pants.
exactly. Just just a little bit, especially as you get older. You're too young to really experience that.
a
But
little bit of squatting and farting and sharding.
Oh, poor
Squat-
Ed Cohn.
Squarting. Yeah, Ed Cohn with his Plato story. That was disgusting.
And we're not talking about the philosopher.
But speaking of shitting your pants, well, no, not really. But speaking of handing out some stunners to people that are bullies to you, we have on today multiple world champion, WWE world champion, Stone Cold Steve Austin. And I am just absolutely fired up to have him on the show. Stone Cold has been an idol of mine for years and years. My brothers and I have watched him come up through the ranks, and it's been awesome to kind of see the guy. Like, I've seen him in ECW, WCW, and WWE. Kind of seen him at his infancy. I've seen when he made up the line Austin 316 and all the different kind of stuff, and it's just going to be awesome to have him on the show. He's just a cool guy. He's just a fucking badass. He is what you see on TV. As you guys will see as we have him here on the podcast, he's just that. He just is what he is.
I tried to, because I'm excited too. You know, I grew up more in the WWE era, watching The Rock and Stone Cold forever with my dad. And so I was trying to tell people like how excited I am. I told my girlfriend, of course she doesn't fucking care. And I tell my mom, she's like, "Oh, you're having Cold Stone on today?" I was like, "That's fucking ice cream, Mom. I'm not fucking." God damn it.
Yeah, we're not having a fucking creamery on
Yeah,
here.
that's what she thought. I was
wait,
like, Mom.
he can probably sue them? Did he do that?
Yeah, I
That'd be-
know.
that'd be
What
awesome.
if?
It's like,
He
yeah.
should make his own called Stone Cold instead of
I
Stone Cold
honestly
Ice Cream.
I don't think he cares. As you guys will see,
Yeah.
He's a cool dude. He's an ass kicker. Been an ass kicker for years. He's also about 48 years old right now. So we'll kind of talk to him about how he's staying in shape, what he's up to currently, and that kind of stuff. Got a podcast going on right now that's really popular. It's picking up a lot of steam, and we'll get to a lot of awesome questions with the rattlesnake.
Did you text him?
I did.
Okay, because what I'm getting from him is now what in text. So
Okay.
should we try?
Yeah, let's try him.
What if his ringtone was his entrance song?
I
I would do that.
Hello.
How's it going, Steve?
Hey, man, what's happening?
You ready to rumble here?
Yeah, I got a little bit of an echo. Is that just the way it is on Skype?
Yeah. Sorry.
Okay. No.
We're cheap. We can't help it. Hey, man, it's it's Veterans Day today, and first question I have for you is, I know WWE has some great ties with the military. They do some pretty cool stuff over there. Did you ever get a chance to, go overseas and, do anything special for the military with any of the WWE events?
I've been doing some research lately. Right now I'm writing a book, and I was going back to some of the things that I had done to look up some dates. I think the last time I was over in Iraq was in 2002. It's been about 10 years since I'd been over there for the troops. And God, man, we had an absolute great time. We were down there, and I guess it was, I can't remember whose place we were in. One of those one of the mega cribs that one of the guys had built back in the day. But had a great time over there entertaining the troops. My personal favorite part of that trip was hanging out with the snipers and getting to shoot some of the guns and trade stories with those guys. And hey man, I'm a big supporter of all of our United States Armed Forces, the baddest cats in the world.
Fuck yeah, they are. So how did all this start for you? How did you I know you have a little bit of a football background. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but how'd you get into wrestling? It's kind of a weird thing to get yourself involved with.
Well, not really weird. I mean, I was 7 or 8 years old back in the day, living in a small town of South Texas and changing channels on the television, and came across Houston wrestling. And man, as soon as I saw those two guys fighting for championship gold, and this was when the business was a lot more simple than it is now. And it was a smoke-filled arena. It was a Houston Coliseum. And, man, there was something about that competition. And, of course, this was back before all the exposés when wrestling was, quote-unquote, real. And I fell in love with it and became a fan at that very day. And I always knew that it was something that I wanted to do and got lucky enough to be able to end up doing.
Who ended up coaching you when you started to come through the ranks?
Well, I just got finished playing college football at North Texas State University, and I was in my room watching World Class Championship Wrestling, and a commercial came on for Gentleman Chris Adams Wrestling School. And so, at the time I was working 40 hours, a week, loading and unloading trucks on a freight dock, driving a forklift. And when I saw that commercial, I said, man, that's it. That's what I'm going to do. Because I used to go up to the Sportatorium in Dallas, Texas, where they had these wrestling matches every Friday night and every Saturday morning, when they did the television taping. So I was already going, and this was my foot in the door.
So Chris Adams is the one who kind of broke you into the wrestling business, is that right?
Oh, absolutely, man. Taught me, the basics, a little bit of chain wrestling, how to fall, how to protect yourself, basic psychology of a match. And, of course, he was instrumental. I started training and wrestling at the back end of 1989. And then Chris and I started feuding together. I started off as a babyface, a good guy, as he was. And then I turned and I started fighting against him. It was a student versus teacher type scenario. And that high-profile angle enabled me to win Rookie of the Year for 1990.
Oh, there you go. A lot of wrestlers have succumbed to addictions and stuff like that. I don't know if you're aware of the film my brother's doing, Prescription Thugs. He's doing some stuff right now. Actually, he's working on kind of wrapping that up. But I believe Chris Adams has since passed. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, Chris was shot by a guy, and I don't really know the details of what went on. So, but he didn't die of a drug overdose. He died because he had gotten shot.
Right. What I was going to kind of say to that end is, you probably ended up kind of losing a lot of friends. I know it's a touchy subject, but with that lifestyle, I mean, painkillers and those kinds of things they're just very very difficult to avoid. Is that right?
Well, man, you're going down the road, and when you're on the road close to 300 days a year, and you're beating the hell out of your body, professional wrestling is rigged, so to speak. You know who's going to win.
Right.
But the laws of gravity and physics apply, man. When someone picks your ass up and throws you down, it hurts. It don't matter, how much give that mat has to it. So, yeah, it just kind of lends itself to being an environment where you kind of lean on pain pills. And then the fact that it's also a form of the entertainment business. You get a bunch of guys going down the road together and laughing and joking. And, hey, man, if a pain pill will light you up, hey, here's a couple to light you up a little bit more.
Yeah, right,
and then, after the matches, when the beer kicks in and you want to go a different direction, there's another pill for that. So it's a whole culture, which is a lifestyle, which is very conducive to being led too far into that zone. And to go back to your point, ends up, in a bad fashion for a lot of the guys. A lot of guys that were good friends that I know.
Now you can also kind of go the other route with that. I know a lot of the guys, do a good job of taking care of themselves. Especially now, it kind of seems like their guys are kind of realizing the importance of it and trying to learn from the past. How did you stay in shape traveling? You said 300 days out of the year. How did you stay in shape traveling that often?
Man, all the guys basically, we were worldwide, but basically we stayed in the United States for, 90% of the year. So, the United States is basically a big-ass circle or loop, as we would call it. So whether it's from this town to the next, in every single town you go where the gym's at. So whether you're flying in to pick up a rent-a-car and then drive to 3 or 4 or 5 towns and then turn in that rent-a-car, in each one of those towns, where that gym is because you've been taught by the guys before you. So you fly in, you do your thing, you hit a Waffle House, get your egg whites, you go to the gym, you get a tan, and then it's time to go to work. So, it goes, when you're on television and you're putting on a show and, part of your deal, or mine was like an ass-kicking type of persona. I wasn't trying to be a bodybuilder, but certainly I needed to attack the weights. Look at some of the great physique guys in the history of the business. Right. They damn sure knew where all the gyms were at, but it just goes to show, you got to take care of your body, and from an aesthetic standpoint, your looks are everything as well.
My boy Silent Mike over here has got a question for you.
How's it going?
Good, Silent Mike. Been checking that on supertraining.tv.
Yeah, trying to lift some weights up here.
You're doing it.
So you already mentioned how your career progressed a little bit from a good guy to a bad guy and so forth, and also playing sports, growing up playing football. How's your training kind of progressed to go from playing on the field to maybe a little bit earlier in your career when you're fresh and then getting a little bit older and feeling more banged up?
Man, I tell you what, my protocol or regimen has always kind of stayed the same. Your basic bodybuilding or powerlifting movements. But to go to where you're talking, with all the injuries that I've sustained throughout the years, like I was talking to Mark earlier, we've been talking on the phone. I recently started squatting again. I had a new ACL and PCL put in my left knee, give or take about 11 months ago. And I had stopped squatting literally at least 18 years ago because of all the problems with my knees. Well, now that my ACL and PCL are coming back around, I'm squatting in the low 300s again for reps. So I've just added the squat back into my regimen after all those years off. I've never really been a big deadlifting guy, but with all the stuff that I've been doing in the past, I wasn't getting enough back density. So I just started deadlifting. I've added that to my regimen. Now, when I had my right tricep reattached, my right arm doesn't straighten out. I probably got about 30 degrees in it before it straightened out. So that kind of affects some of the movements I train. I can still bench, do my standing military presses, skull crushers, stuff of that nature, but I've got to work with the fact that arm doesn't extend all the way. Major shoulder rebuild 2 years ago, 8 screws and 2 staples, rebuilding my left shoulder. So I kind of overcome some weaknesses in that shoulder as well, but I'm able to do the basics. Sometimes I have to modify the form a little bit to fit what I can do mechanically, but the weights are not quite as heavy as they used to be. Obviously, I'm not 25 anymore. Right. I'm 48, so that kind of goes with the territory, but I still try to maintain my intensity, my focus, and add the reps, but or add the weight. But heavy is as heavy does. What's heavy to me now wasn't heavy to me back then, but I'm still training heavy.
Mike and I were talking earlier about how great the Sling Shot feels. You throw something on like the Sling Shot, and it has some great properties in terms of making you feel better and keeping some stress off your shoulders and elbows. But then we were talking and we're like, Stone Cold, that motherfucker's been through a lot. And when he put that thing on, it must have even felt that much greater to him. So what's your experience with the Sling Shot?
Well, man, first of all, I loved it. And believe me, dude, I wouldn't put anything over that I didn't believe in. I've been a guy that I'm a big fan of powerlifting, going way back to the days. I was in Denton, Texas, watching Tony Atlas bench 550. He barely missed 600. If he would have went with it an attempt sooner, he would have got it. And Tony Atlas was one of my old traveling partners. So I'm a big fan of powerlifting, but never put on a bench shirt. Right. So I'd been reading about your Sling Shot, and then you sent me that two of them. You sent me the medium strength one and the heavy duty one. Well, I've been using the medium strength one, and man, I've got so many bone chips in my right elbow, along with the fact that it doesn't straighten out all the way. Sometimes those bone chips get lodged in those tendons, and it's hard and painful for me to lift. So putting that Sling Shot on gives me just the pressure on the elbow itself, and the fact that it's helping me with the weight. It's been tremendous for my workouts. I'll usually do my regular protocol, and then when I don't have anybody to spot me, I'll throw on the Sling Shot, crank out a couple more sets for some volume and the assistance that the Sling Shot gives me. And I told you this the other day, Mark. I was experimenting with the Sling Shot, and I said, hell, if it'll work for a bench press, it's got to work for a standing military press. So I went ahead, put it on both of my arms, came up to my power rack, got the weights and started lifting them overhead. And the thing works great for a standing military press too. And I don't know if you guys have messed around with that movement with that Sling Shot on, but it's damn good for that too. And I'm trying to use it to help me get over my sticking point of where I'm at right now with my military.
Yeah, that's great. Anybody else who wants Stone Cold to plug something, all you got to do is send them a couple 6-packs of beer. Send them to the Broken Skull Ranch down there in Texas. So that's where you're at right now. You're down there at the Broken Skull Ranch. Is that right?
Yeah, man, I'm down here at the ranch. It's deer season. I drove down in my RV with my chocolate lab Hershey. And between hunting and working out, I'm writing this book. But right now, man, I'm having a blast down here because I'm the only person on 2,000 acres, and Jesus. I'm doing what I love to do, hunt deer.
And your dog's okay, right? Those of you following you on Twitter, you were tweeting some stuff about your dog. Your dog's doing better, right?
Yeah, I had to take Hershey into the vet. She was kind of doing like a dry heave type thing. I think it was basically some kind of pharyngeal, like mucus. She was kind of draining. It was going to her stomach, and she started throwing up some kind of bile stuff. And man, I'm a dog lover deluxe, and if there's something wrong with my dog, I've got to take her to the vet. And Hershey got a clean bill of health. She's on some prednisone right now for about 2 weeks, but she's doing fine. I carry that dog. She weighs 80 pounds, and I carry her up the steps to the deer stand to hunt with me every single day. And doing the squats and the deadlifts has been easier to carry her ass up there this year rather than last year.
Right. Yeah, and you also mentioned by training your lower back, it's going to be easier to pick those deer up after you shoot them, right?
Yes, to answer your question, but I tell you what, a dead deer is a dead deer, man.
Yeah.
And literally, it's dead weight, no pun intended, but trying to pick up a limp-ass deer and throw it on the back of a platform on my Ford Bronco is a task in and of itself.
That's a totally different type of strength right there.
I'm not going out there with my weightlifting belt and my straps.
What's the worst injury that you've had? Like, what was the most painful thing at all your years of wrestling?
I'd probably say the most painful when I got Booker T put me through an announce desk there in Meadowlands, New Jersey.
That son of a bitch.
And I bounced off the desk, and the lower part of my back hit the edge of a steel chair, and it folded over 3 of the transverse processes in my lower back.
Oh my
and God, you talk about painful. That was more painful than when I got dropped on my head and almost paralyzed. And I remember, after I had to take a couple of weeks off, it was a couple of months off actually, and then when I finally started getting back in the ring, every single dressing room I went to, there was a doctor waiting there to stick a needle in my ass with 60 milligrams of Toradol so I could get through the night. But hey, that was probably the most painful.
Speaking of Booker T, I don't know what year it was, but I've seen in a grocery store. There's a bald guy that's kind of small, looks kind of weak, and then he gets ambushed by Booker T. Booker T thought that small weak guy was you, and then you come out and whoop Booker T's ass all over the grocery store. Do you remember that?
That's what you call a great storyline. And I've always loved working with Booker T. That guy, he's got a great sense of humor. He's a hell of a worker in the ring and a guy that I have a lot of chemistry with. One of the hardest times I was ever hit in the ring was by Booker T. was with the right hand. And when that son of a bitch hit me, I said, all right, because when you knock the hell out of a guy, you've got one coming back. So me and Booker were out there having fun, and he lit my ass up, and I threw the hardest right I could throw at him. And I always told him, I said, dude, I took your best shot. If my right arm would straighten out, I would have knocked your ass out. But, yeah, the supermarket thing with Booker T is something that a lot of people always comment about, and it was a great storyline, and he was a great opponent.
Do you know who that impersonator was in that grocery store? Do you remember?
Oh, man, dude, I don't have any idea. If he was standing in front of me, I wouldn't know.
He's actually on the podcast right now. It was Smelly Bell.
That was me. That was my first time meeting you.
That was?
Yeah. It was some pounds ago, you know.
Skinny and weak back then.
I ended up meeting you like 3 or 4 different times back when I was wrestling. And I actually remember one time I was, the first couple of times you get to that locker room is just fucking intimidating as hell. You see all these superstars on TV that you've been watching for years. You know, one of the first guys I ran into when I went into the room where they said, you know, you can go in here and eat, I ran into The Undertaker, and I was like, Jesus Christ. And my brother, Mike, he wrestled for a long time, and he always taught me, you got to say hi to everybody, or otherwise everyone's going to think you're a dick. So I made sure I was doing all those kinds of things. And I remember seeing you in there, and I was like, oh, fuck, man. There's Stone Cold. That's my favorite guy. And I was really, just apprehensive about coming over and shaking your hand. You were eating or something, and I was just like, fuck, man. I got to try to catch him at some point. And then you actually came over to me, and you're like, I was wondering if you're going to say hi or something. And you shook my hand, and that was kind of it. But I also remember being in there with Vince as well. I was loading up on some chicken, and I didn't think anybody was around. And so I go to turn around, and there's Vince, and I'm like, oh shit, he's gonna see this new guy like loading up on a bunch of chicken. And Vince is like, oh, that's what I like to see, loading up on some protein. Yeah, he's all fired up. So that was pretty cool. But yeah, it's nerve-wracking getting back in that locker room first couple times you're there.
Well, it's interesting, at the entry level, when you go into a place where you've got, some pretty hardcore vets and guys that have been up and down the road and guys that are fighting for survival and fighting to keep their job, and all of a sudden a new cat comes in,
right.
And that's kind of our stomping ground. It's like an NFL locker room.
Right.
So, yeah, it can be intimidating. And when you talk about a cat like The Undertaker, who's probably one of the nicest, most straight-up guys in the business, he is an intimidating figure, and a little bit over 6'9", and with his calm demeanor, yeah, he can kind of, he can scare the shit out of you. But he's a super nice guy.
Does he live near you? You guys live close to each other, and doesn't he live in Texas? Is that right?
No, I haven't heard from Mark in
okay.
some time, but I think Mark is probably over in the Austin area. I'm 75 miles south of San Antonio. Nonetheless, we're sharing the same state. It is big enough for both of us.
Yeah, there you go. Coming through the ranks and stuff. I followed some of your career through ECW, WCW, and that kind of stuff. How were you able to, maintain focus and kind of keep your eye on the prize? I mean, did you always know that you were going to be able to surpass a lot of people in the business, or was it more just keep going and kind of see how far you can take it type of thing?
Man, I don't know. I think that's a good question, because there's many times I didn't lose focus, but I was living, pretty fast. Hanging out with a bunch of guys, doing a bunch of crazy things. So, man, it was just a thing of, this is what I did for a living. I want to do it at a high level. And when I first got into business of pro wrestling, man, I got in strictly from the standpoint I wanted to be a pro wrestler. I wasn't thinking, all the years down the road and how I would feel like when I was out of it, or what I really aspired to be. When I first got in wrestling, I wasn't thinking, yeah, I want to be this and I want to be the world champion. I just wanted to be a wrestler. So all the good things and all the biscuits and gravy came way down the road. But, when it all started, man, it was just the start of something that turned out to be a real big run. But it was always, one step at a time, keep going down the road and keep paying those gimmicks they send in the mail called bills.
Right. I know, a lot of wrestlers have kind of credited you with kind of amping up the WWE in general, making everybody's paycheck fatter, basically. I mean, were you kind of surprised and shocked as you were moving upward, how your pay changed over the years?
Well, that's the thing that, I tell a lot of these cats in the wrestling business today. You should have a log, a journal, almost like a workout journal. But you should log in every single town that you go to, jot down 2 or 3 sentences of what happened that day in case you want to write a book later on down the road.
Right.
But part of that due process, writing down the town, writing down attendance, where you were at on that card and how much you got paid. You must have concrete evidence so you can understand how the pay system is formulated. Thereby, when your popularity increases, you need to be making more money.
My dad's.
Make sure that I know the formula.
What's that?
Yeah, you have to. You have to understand. You have to understand how pay is paid out,
right?
And understand the system. So when it comes time for a raise, you know how and why to go for it and ask for it.
Yeah, my dad is a financial planner for a lot of people, and he's kind of taught me over the years. He basically said, life is about making 10% more each year. And, it doesn't really seem like you're asking yourself a lot to try to make, 5 or 10% more every single year. But I think it's a good principle to have. And that's kind of what you're saying.
Well, you gotta have goals, and the longer you stay on a job and the higher you move up on that job, with that comes more responsibilities and more pressure. And if you're performing at a higher level and you have earned that money, you're damn right. So, it gives you. That's basically goal setting, and you should set goals in your life.
How were you able to handle that pressure? I mean, let's face it. You said you're on the road 300 days out of the year. There's lots of drugs, alcohol. There's lots of pussy out there. I mean, how the hell did you, how the hell were you able to survive a lot of that, or you just let things kind of come and go as they went?
How did I survive? I've been married. I've been
Inhaled
married 4
it
times.
Yeah.
And
there you go.
I've talked with one of my close friends who was one of my travel partners for many years, and to some of the excesses that I can say we went through, but I always, being accountable for me, some of the excesses that I went through, man, I remember one time I was in San Antonio and I woke up and started taking stock of all the things that I was putting myself through, all the things that I was doing. And I was out of the business of professional wrestling at this time. And I just had to come to Jesus, meet with myself, and said, hey, dude, I said, you're not on the road anymore. You're a regular civilian again. So you need to stop doing all this stuff that you're doing to yourself. So that's when I backed off and, started, kind of basically straightening my life out. And my life wasn't crooked, but on the road, when I was drinking, hot and heavy and doing the pain pills and the muscle relaxers and all that, using those things as a tool and a crutch to get to the next job, it was one thing. But, left to my own devices when I was just using them to either, to just get a buzz or boredom, it wasn't a smart path in life to go down. And so I got off that path.
Steve, it's Jim McDonald. How do you feel that the experience with wrestling prepared you for basically the rest of show business, movies and podcasts, TV?
Man, I don't know. It put me in front of a camera, and when I went to ECW and Paul Lee finally, helped me unlock some of my persona and put out a promo and learn how to communicate my feelings, and then when Vince hired me and I drew off that experience with Paul Lee and then started learning how to draw money in a squared circle. also along with the promotion that was helping to push me do that, it just everything I've always done, Jim, was hard manual labor, and pro wrestling is much the same, but it's entertainment business. So the fact that it opened my eyes, and it made me see that through all the work and stuff that I've done, I'm here to be in the entertainment business. And so those experiences of being in front of the camera and been cutting promos and being in storylines and making decisions on the fly on live TV will prepare you for just about anything you need to do, whether it's podcasting or acting. Now, not specifically so, because they're parallels, but they're very different than acting like a Daniel Day-Lewis or one of those kind of guys, or just doing my Steve Austin Show podcast.
Right.
But I'm a creative person. So the things that I do allow me to create. And so I guess that's the best thing that it helped me train for.
One of the things that I've noticed working with Mark over the years is that all that experience cutting promos has made a huge difference in his ability to just think on his feet. And most of the stuff that we do is, one take. Obviously, we don't back up on the podcast and retake anything, but just like, we've done videos for years and other circumstances where he just seems to be able to think on his feet quickly, and I think I've noticed that some with other wrestlers, and definitely noticed it with you.
Well, that and when I watch the videos, the instructional stuff on supertraining.tv, Mark's website, I listen to the commentary, and it's also a lot easier when you're talking about something you're highly knowledgeable about. And so, obviously cutting the promos has helped Mark, but also it's his intense knowledge, love, and passion for powerlifting, weightlifting in general that's able to help that happen as well. And for anybody to listen to this who hadn't been to supertraining.tv, go check it out, because as a guy that's kind of new to deadlifting, I rely on that to kind of give me my some protocol as far as my form.
Silent Mike, he tends to get out of line here. Maybe you can just give us a 30-second promo. Speaking of thinking on your feet, you're fighting him January 1st here at Super Training Gym. Maybe you can just go off on him for a minute.
I'm the champ right now.
Let me tell you something, Silent Mike. They call you Silent Mike for a reason. Once I get finished with you, you ain't going to say another damn word. And that's all I got to say about that, you son of a bitch.
There you go. Silent Mike has a stunner, I think, coming his way.
Hey, man, one of these days, Mark, I'm going to get down there to see you guys at your gym.
Yeah, you got to come out and lift, man. We'll get some deadlifting on.
What? I'm gonna drive my RV down there. But, hey, man, you recently y'all posted a video of that young lady from, where was she from? Was she from South Africa?
Oh, yeah, I sent you a video of that girl deadlifting, 395 or something like
Hawaii.
that?
I think she's from Hawaii.
Yeah, she was deadlifting 335 for reps. I'm like, man, I was making a little bit of headway with my deadlift, and all of a sudden I saw this chick doing these weights. I'm like, oh, my God. So, it was motivational, inspirational, and embarrassing at the same time.
Yeah, I know you texted me back, and you were like, hey, thanks a lot. That really built my confidence a lot to see a woman outlifting me.
Let me give credit to that damn young lady in the video. She's working her ass off. That's an impressive deadlift.
Yeah, we just had a competition here. We had a 2-day competition. We had a day that was full of females lifting, and it's kind of unbelievable to see some of the weights. The guys are always impressive, but when you see a girl deadlift 500 pounds, 525 pounds, or there was a girl here that squatted, I think, 600 pounds, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's
in gear, but still.
It's unbelievable, and we have we've had some female athletes in here over the years, and you walk past them and you're not thinking anything of it because we see them all the time, but they're handling, 50, 60-pound dumbbells on bench press, and you just don't think of it much, but then you're like, that's a chick that's moving those weights. We also had Shannon Hartnett work out here for a while, and she was just an unbelievable athlete, Highland Games and strongman and all kinds of stuff. And it's kind of, like you said, it's kind of motivating, but also kind of embarrassing to see the kind of weights they're pushing around.
Well, you know what? Every now and then I'll get on the internet, for a little bit of motivation, and I went over to. I guess it was a West Side Training video, and it was Laura Phelps Sweat who was lifting specifically, right. And it was kind of a music montage to some of her best as man, I don't know. She rang up a total of, 1,700 pounds. It was something ridiculous.
That's right, yeah.
Man, she is absolutely incredible. You talk about a strong son of a bitch. She is badass.
Yeah, she's unbelievable. She's bench pressing over 500, squatting over 7, and deadlifting mid 5s, I think, something like that. Are there some power lifters are there some wrestlers that you're aware of that have power lifted over the years? Like anybody that obviously there's like Mark Henry.
Oh, dude, man, but you got to stop right there. You got to go to Doug Furness.
Right, yeah, he was way
that
back
guy,
in the day.
He basically stopped powerlifting before he even hit his prime. So, and this was a guy that was on the road and playing football. So there's no telling what that guy could have done, but that dude was an absolute, just genetic freak to do the things that he did, and then all of a sudden get into a squared circle and throw drop kicks that would hit a 6-foot guy in the top of his head and land on his feet. A phenomenal athlete. So I would say Doug Furness first and foremost. And, of course, my old travel partner was Tony Atlas, Mr. USA. And, man, me and Tony would ride down the road and drink beer. We'd go to the gym the next day, and there I was struggling with 225 because I had a hangover. And there's Tony over there with 405, lifting it like it wasn't nobody's business. It was embarrassing.
I mean, that guy had like a 30-inch waist or something retarded, too, and like a 60-inch chest or something, right? I mean, he was
just incredible genetics, but an incredible work ethic, and the fact that he was so consistent all those years and took care of himself. That's a testament to how much he loved to train, but also, testament to great genetics.
You mentioned drinking a lot of beer. What's your nutrition like when you're on the road or even now? I mean, obviously you got to recover from these workouts.
Man, what I'm trying to do right now, I'm probably a touch under 2,800 calories. I'm not trying to be too. I might need to add in a little bit of cardio, but right now I'm very consistent because I'm out here at the ranch. I cook everything, myself. Whether I'm here in LA, it doesn't matter. I cook all my stuff, and the bulk of my diet is plain grilled chicken breasts, one serving of 96% lean ground beef a day. I don't like to go too high with the red meat. A little bit of rice for my after workout carbs, a little bit of oatmeal for my first meal, and then some other carbs throughout the day, but basically to the tune of about 2,800 calories. And I love to drink beer, but I try to drink beer 6-pack on Saturday night, because if I'm trying to be at a caloric deficit and tone up and lose about 10 pounds over the course of deer season, I can't do that by drinking a 6-pack of beer every single night.
Right. You mentioned also that you're working on your own beer. Is that right?
Man, working on it. The wheels are in motion now. This isn't going to be a process that happens overnight, but I started doing a little bit of home brew research. I brewed up my first batch here in Los Angeles. My wife's going to bring that down next week when she comes, and I'm going to get a kit set here to the house, and I'm going to brew up a batch out here at the ranch. But it's something I'm very interested in, and I'm surprised that with all the beer and whiskey that I've drank back in the day, probably enough to fill up the Grand Canyon, I never got into some of the craft brewing stuff. And so now, as much as I enjoyed all the beer I guzzled in a WWE ring and in my life, now I'm sipping beer responsibly, enjoying the taste of it.
I'm right there with you. I actually just brewed my first beer at home a couple months ago, and I was shocked at how actually good it was. I would pay for this. I would go out to a store or a bar or whatever and pay for it. And it wasn't so hard, but I mean, obviously you can get very deep into it, and you can work with different yeasts and different grains trying to shape the flavor that you're looking for. But what's your favorite?
Well, man, I'll tell you right now, if I was going to go to a store, there's two beers that I'm really hot on right now. One is Sierra Nevada Torpedo Extra IPA.
That was
and
good.
the Ballast Point Sculpin Double IPA.
I love that.
Those are my two favorite beers right now. So the next batch I brew will try to be in the vein of cloning one of those.
Right.
You're not quite old enough for wine yet, huh?
Well, actually, I'm trying to come out with the wine as we speak. So we're going through that process as well. No, there was a period for several years when I was a serious connoisseur of Cabernet Sauvignon. Now more so, if I'm drinking that, it's going to be a Pinot Noir. a little bit on the lighter side. But no, I do the red wines too. But now that I'm such in a beer mode, I kind of go from one to one. It started off as beer, hardcore into whiskey, vodka, Cabernet, then back to beer, then back to vodka, now on to craft beer. So I've been making the rounds. So I'm well versed in the school of alcohol.
I know you had Adam Carolla on a few months ago, and he's actually been really successful with that Mangria, which is kind of just like something he threw together in his kitchen.
It tastes like something he threw together in his kitchen.
There you go.
I'm successful marketing it. I can't say that it's just the greatest tasting shit I ever tasted, but I have a lot of respect for Adam and how he's marketed that Mangria, and he's kicking ass with it. So I think it's badass. Anytime I do his show, don't get me wrong, I'll have a swig of Mangria for the working man.
Right. He's bootstrapped himself up more than pretty much anybody that I can think of in show business. Starting off, cleaning carpets and being a carpenter and one thing or another until he got to be a boxing instructor for Jimmy Kimmel.
Well, he's an interesting guy, and he's a very smart guy. And obviously, he hit some hard times there in his life. And yeah, to your point, he did pull himself up by the bootstraps, and he's earned everything that he's getting paid.
You were mentioning how you're cooking all your foods now and stuff like that. So when you were on the road, you kind of mentioned how you found certain restaurants, certain gyms and stuff like that. What kind of foods were you able to eat on the road? Because I think that's a big question that a lot of people have. A lot of people like to use any excuse they can to like be off their diet. What are some kind of useful tips that you used to utilize when you were traveling?
Going back even to the 90s when I was on the road, you can't make any excuses for, if you want to eat clean, you can. All you got to do is pull into a Waffle House or an IHOP or a Denny's and get a grilled chicken breast or some egg whites. And if you want to get hash browns, tell them to steam them. There's more substitutions. I mean, there's so many restaurants these days where it's easy to get a clean meal out of. Even if say you're on a ketogenic diet, pull in any fast food place, get your hamburger, throw away everything but the meat.
Right.
You're ready to go. So, there's many ways to eat clean on the road. Just because you're on the road, you can make many excuses, but in reality, there is none. You can't eat clean on the road. And I'm talking to all the truck drivers out there, like I do on my Steve Austin Show podcast, the podcast for the working man. Make smart decisions at that diner.
Right. Yeah. Make a better choice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I just think in general, people are going to always try to use an excuse on why they're not working out or why they're not eating properly. And in pro wrestling, you're pretty damn exposed. I mean, you used to come out in tights. You're wearing like basically underwear out in front of thousands of people. So like you said. There's no other choice. There's no excuses on coming out and being a lot fatter than you were a few weeks before that.
I'll never forget we was working in a small town in Canada, and I was working with that guy that was the fake Razor Ramon. And so I was the bad guy in the business, but they were liking me in this particular town. So I was kind of almost playing a part of the babyface in this match. And so I challenged the fake Razor Ramon to a test of strength. When you put your hands up in the air and you lock hands and then you kind of start struggling. Well, in the act of struggling, I had been off my diet for quite some time, and it's almost like I had ribbed myself. So as we were shaking and struggling, my love handles were jiggling like something. I was like, dude, did you really do this to yourself? You're putting yourself in a real shitty position. So I remember it was a curtain sellout. It wasn't very far to the dressing room, and I could see all of the boys lined up vertically watching the match. And the picture that made the newspaper was a picture with me with a smile on my face because I could see the guys in the dressing room looking at me while I was laughing my ass off in the ring. It was classic.
That's great. How did you decide to get into the podcasting business?
It'd been something I wanted to do about a year ago, but didn't take the initiative or have the technological know-how how to do it. And so the people at Podcast One got in contact with me and asked if I wanted to do a podcast, just based on the fact with a little bit of popularity or familiarity with the people, and from the line of work that I had been doing. And I said, well, yeah, I'd love to do one. And so that's how it started. And from its inception, or how it started, I didn't really, I was kind of think I was going to talk about things that I enjoy in life, but what the show has turned into, I call it audio whoop ass. That's what my show is what I'm trying to do with my show is I talk to different wrestlers, different people from the music business, actors, athletes, anybody, or if it's just me bullshitting in a hotel room, wrestling a fly because I don't have the internet. It's entertainment. The world is full of so many damn problems. I just want to be able to entertain someone while they're driving to work or while they're at work with my bullshit. And a lot of it, and also want to throw some helpful tidbits of information in there along the way, lessons that I've learned through some of the stuff that I've been through, my successes and failures. So, I just want to entertain people, but I got into it really as a way to use my creative brain, because I like to be creative and be proactive in that and express myself, but maintain a relationship with the fan base that I spent 15 years of my life beating the shit out of my body to have.
Right.
And then when you get off Monday Night Raw and you're on your own, you don't have any way to communicate with them. So I started my Twitter account, Steve Austin BSR, and now the podcast, the Steve Austin Show, and that show comes out twice a week. The Tuesday show is a family-friendly show. The Thursday show is off the charts, and it's explicit rated, and it is for a reason. That's me doing what I love to do, cuss.
I'll be on Thursday. Thank you very much.
You got it. I can have you on a Thursday easy.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, I think you're one of the few that I know of who is actually producing a family-friendly as well as explicit. I mean, we get hit a little bit sometimes on our videos with swearing, but we figure for the most part it's gym culture, and we're not really trying.
We end up talking a lot about dildos. I'm not really sure how or why that came to be, but I don't know. We just ended up.
When I came out of the gate with that first podcast, I wanted to, I guess they always say interaction with boldness, and I came out charging, and it was just me giving a platform to talk like I would to my close personal friends. So I consider my listeners my close personal friends. But now that the podcast genre is being considered as a business model, that these people, these large corporations, now want to recognize the value in people being able to deliver a message. They're starting to use more of their advertising budget to go toward podcasts.
Right.
So it only made sense. And this was the idea of Norm Pattis, the guy who founded Westwood One and is head of podcast1.com now. Back in, he was the biggest, radio syndication person in the world with Westwood One. And he goes, hey, Steve, we've got a lot of people that want to be on your show, but they don't want to touch an explicit rating. Can we do another version? And at first I resisted, but then I said, you know what? Why don't I do both? Because, I want to have an act that I could take into Bass Pro Shops and speak on that platform of corporate America, still being true to myself, but able to entertain the masses. Because if you turn on television and you're watching Jimmy Kimmel or David Letterman or Jay Leno, it's within parameters of, PG-rated TV. Right. So I figured I needed a PG rating of my show to grow into a bigger audience, and also to maintain my other show, to maintain, me being me.
Right. I think you just multiplied your success.
Well, I think I did. Actually, the clean show is the more popular of the two, but that being said, I try to have, those guests on those particular shows to, for that reason.
Putting out a podcast twice a week seems like a lot of work. Do you got any other projects going on? Any more acting or anything? Any movies or TV you see happening in the future?
Man, I had some stuff going on. We shot a pilot for CMT, Country Music Television, that I'm pretty positive will get picked up. We're going to see what happens in the future with that. We'll see if Redneck Island comes back. Right now, Grown Ups 2 just came out on DVD last week.
I got it already.
That was a great movie. It was great working with those guys. But I'll have some more acting stuff coming up. But what I'm really doing right now, you hit the nail right on the head. The podcast is a lot of work. I don't like to talk to anybody when I have not done my research. You cannot conduct, a great, and I don't consider myself an interviewer, but I like to have conversation with. So the more I know about that person, the better the podcast or the conversation can be. So in doing that homework, it's very time consuming, and I got to put pride. If my name's on something, I want it to be good. So I just try to stay busy enough now to, keep paying the bills and keep growing. But I want to take my Steve Austin show on the road and do podcasts from the road and also in front of a live audience.
Yeah.
I don't know
if
this
more
is
of that.
I don't know if this is ready for a CMT or not, but I'm thinking Mark Bell, Silent Mike, Steve Austin, and Cold Iron. When's that coming about? A deadlifting show.
Hosting a super training reality show.
That's a great question that I cannot answer.
We'll see when you come up here. You can see how ridiculous this place is, and you can start to figure out some stuff in your head.
But you know what? That's great because it sounds like, from what I've seen on y'all's website, it looks like y'all have a great gym. Great gyms are disappearing. You guys know that as well as I do.
We have a lot of fun.
It's all about fitness and posh and, God, you can't, you can't yell. Here's one thing I can't stand: the guy who yells every single time he does a rep.
Right.
But
Stan Efferding
a gym
is his
where
name.
you can chalk up, yell, and lift heavy weight and actually sweat. And gyms these days, or fitness centers, sweating is damn near against the rules.
Right. I try to tell people, when it comes to strength, the more dangerous something is, the better off you are. It sounds ridiculous, but a lot of things aren't going to be safe. When you go to squat 700 pounds, there's nothing safe about it. You can't guarantee the safety of it.
Yeah, it goes with the territory, but I enjoy heavy, serious training, and like I'm writing in my book. I mean, what's heavy to me might not be heavy to you guys, but the point is, I'm lifting heavy for me. So you got to have a facility to do that, or
right.
a facility that wants that. I understand why some of these fitness centers are turning a little bit more geared toward, I don't know, the softer crowd.
Right.
Yes, they're trying to, appeal to the masses as my PG-rated podcast. So I can't fault them on that. But it seems to me maybe I can fault society for not manning up and wanting to get sweaty and get fit and go to the gym and get bigger and stronger like
right.
a man's supposed to be.
Right. Let's talk a little bit about conditioning. I don't think people have any idea how demanding pro wrestling really is. Maybe some of you guys out there have had some wrestling matches in your basement or something like that with your brothers or something along those lines, might have some understanding of it. But it takes a tremendous amount of conditioning, and yeah, there's little spots here and there you can rest. But what types of things did you do in your training to prepare yourself for the conditioning of pro wrestling?
Man, if you want to eat, obviously you're going to lift your weights, but at the end of the day, not everybody in wrestling lifts weights. I know plenty of guys that went their whole careers and weren't gym guys. For me, though, it was the gym, and for me, it was cardio, whether it was a treadmill or a pre-core or whatever. But wrestling is like many things. It's very specific. You can be a king on a pre-core and then get in a match and get your ass handed to you because you cannot breathe. Right. So it's being in ring shape. When I was coming back from my tricep tear, when I joined up with WWF, I was wrestling Savio Vega every single night. And after all the months off with my tricep tear, my lungs were not in shape. And I'm working with the Puerto Rican wrestler who's old school. He can work his ass off. He's going to get his shit in. I got to shine him up as the heel, and then I got to fly around for him as when he makes the comeback as a babyface. And, during the heat, I would just lay in a rest hold because I was just trying to suck wind and get recover so I could fly around for his comeback. So, to me, the biggest thing about probably very similar to an octagon, a UFC fight, it's sparring. You need to be in ring shape to wrestle in the ring.
I want to talk about the evolution of Stone Cold. Like when you did the when you did Austin 316 for the first time, when you were wrestling Jake the Snake Roberts. Was that something that you thought of well before that? I know, I guess the storyline was that Jake the Snake was kind of being a Bible beater at that particular time, and you kind of ripped out the line, Austin 316 stands for I just whooped your ass. Is that something that you thought about a lot? And when you said the line, did you have any idea of the impact changed wrestling pretty much forever?
Oh man, the whole King of the Ring thing in '96 was a fluke. Triple H and Kevin Nash and Scott Hall and Shawn Michaels, they did that big hug fest thing in Madison Square Garden when Kevin Hall and Scott Nash were going to go down to WCW. Well, Shawn Michaels was world champion, so Vince wasn't going to punish him. But Triple H was not the world champion, so Vince punished Triple H. Triple H was supposed to win the King of the Ring that I won. I remember walking across the parking lot one day in Lowell, Massachusetts, 2 weeks before the King of the Ring. Vince said, "Hey, Steve, you got a second?" I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "I just want to let you know in 2 weeks you're going to win King of the Ring." I said, "Okay." So anyway, there I was 2 weeks before. I wrestled Mark Merrow in the first match. And he did a little move, kicked me in the mouth, and busted my lip open. So they hauled my ass to the hospital in an ambulance, put 14 stitches in my upper lip, brought me back. I was still in my ring gear. And as soon as I got out of the ambulance, Michael Hayes says, "Hey, Steve, I just want to let you know you're going to wrestle Jake the Snake Roberts in the final. Oh, by the way, he cut a religious promo on you while you were gone." And that was all he said. So immediately what popped into my mind was John 3:16,
right,
as I equate that with religion back in when you watch the football games.
Right.
After every damn touchdown, they'd put up the John 3:16 signs in the goal in the end zone. So that made me think of that. And so I just said, "Oh, I got something for your ass, Austin 3:16." So then all of a sudden I go to do my acceptance speech with Michael Hayes, and I go through that promo, and I said, during the promo, I said, "You sit there and thump your Bible and say your prayers, and it didn't get you anywhere. You talk about your Psalms, talk about John 3:16. Austin 3:16 says, I just whooped your ass." Then I kept flapping my gums, totally ad lib. That's just, all of that was total ad lib. But then this was back when Vince was doing the commentary, right, and he was on the house announce system trying to wrap things up so they could go to another match. I heard him doing that while I was speaking, so I needed to come up with an out. So I finally said, just to wrap things up, because I could hear Vince flapping his gums, was, "And that's the bottom line, because Stone Cold said so." Hell, I went to the baseball park that night and hit 2 grand slams off a baseball game I wasn't even supposed to win. So that's how that was all born. And it was totally organic. It happened on the fly. It never was supposed to happen. And I don't know what would have happened had those guys not hugged in the garden, and I got that opportunity, because I would have never created either one of those catchphrases, if you want to call them, because the situation wouldn't have presented itself. And did I know then that they would have the impact felt even to today? Hell no.
How long did it take for that to catch fire? Was it pretty immediate?
The next night, there was already signs in the crowd. Austin 3:16 said, "I just whooped your ass," and because Stone Cold said so.
There's T-shirts on the way.
T-shirts. Oh yeah, that's a whole another story. When I first came into the WWEF, they were pushing Vader, they were pushing Mankind, they were pushing Mark Merrow, all these guys. And I came in right around that same time, and they weren't pushing me for shit. I was the ringmaster. That sucked. And, dude, I know that you can make money by selling, T-shirts. So I kept telling the guy who ran the merchandise, "Jimmy, they going to do a shirt for me yet?" And he said, "No, Steven, they don't have any plans for a shirt for you." Well, finally, I changed into Stone Cold. All that stuff happened. And finally, my good buddy Jimmy came up to me and goes, "Steven, the office finally wants to do a T-shirt for you. Do you have any ideas?" I said, "You goddamn right I do." I said, "Put Austin 3:16 on the front, put a skull on the back, carve in Stone Cold with a chisel. That's your shirt." The shirt was made. The shirt was sold. It became the #1 selling shirt in the history of wrestling.
Awesome. What's, if you don't mind sharing, what's the most amount of money you made off of T-shirts in 1 year?
Man, it was a lot. I'll tell you that.
That's awesome. I mean, that was really cool for me to see as a wrestling fan, to kind of see the evolution of that. And it's kind of amazing because I know that catchphrases were somewhat popular, when you landed those two things, but they just exploded after that, and that's when The Rock started coming in, and each guy started developing their own catchphrase and that kind of thing.
It was almost like in hair metal, the hair bands. Everybody came up with a power ballad back in the day.
Right.
So now in the Attitude Era, you must have a catchphrase.
We've already talked about a lot of different superstars and stuff, and what do you think's the big factor that kind of brought you and The Rock up in the WWE, but also just in entertainment in general? You guys seem to spread out a little bit better and a little bit more than some of the other names.
I just think, I think I was very original. I just started brandishing, my who and what I was in a competitive environment and let it fly and made no apologies for it. And several, in the entertainment business, man, you got to go out on a limb. You can't have somebody needing to push you out there. So I went out on that limb, and sometimes they tried to reel me back in. But, I just knew after, 7.5 years of paying dues and, getting screwed around and going through the process that you go through and the learning process of anything in life, it was time to put up or shut up, and I let fly. Rock, whether he took it as a cue from me or, did it, in and of his own right, he started doing his thing and he was massively successful. So I'm not saying I influenced him at all, but we did it seemingly at the same time. I was probably a year ahead of him.
It seems like you both really connected with a fan base in a way that really had legs. So you're talking about Austin 316 being there the next night. How do you deal with fans now because you're obviously you're out in public some, and how do you deal with fans, wrestling fans, particularly exuberant fans?
Oh man, you got to appreciate them. I've been gone for the pro wrestling scene for 10, 11, 12 years, man, and when someone's happy to see me, and I know that they help me pay my bills and support my career, and many of them listen to my podcast, man, I tell them thanks for watching and listening and supporting and everything like that. I mean, that's why you get in business as especially the entertainment business, is for people to watch you. So, hey, man, don't get me wrong. I could be at a restaurant with a fork in my hand and the timing isn't that great, but you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Within reason, man. If it's not with the fans, it wouldn't be possible. And that's why, man, I thank them damn near every time I do a podcast.
What's the dumbest thing you've ever done in your wrestling career?
Well, when I walked out of Atlanta, Georgia, when they wanted me to do a job for Brock Lesnar in a non-advertised Monday Night Raw match with no hype, no build, no nothing, a pay-per-view match, as a stepping stone for Brock Lesnar, who would, obviously had massive potential and has realized that. But at the time, guys like me don't come around that long. Guys that draw stupid money. They're pretty damn rare. So I figured, that was a bad business decision. And rather than going to the building and talking over like a man, I heard the creative from Jim Ross the night before as I was wrestling Ric Flair in a cage in Columbus, Georgia. And I told him I wasn't going to be there. He called Vince. Vince called me. We had the same conversation. And, I got on a goddamn airplane and went back to San Antonio and, lost a couple $1 million over the process of 6 or 8 months because I was an asshole. That was the dumbest mistake I ever made in the business of professional wrestling.
What is some advice? I know your book, you're kind of mentioning that it's kind of a man's book, a man's guide of, some things, some do's and don'ts. What are some do's you think would be good for, your average listener that's listening to this today, who just wants to get a little stronger, wants to get in better shape?
Hey, man, goddamn, I think it goes back to one of the things we were talking about just 10, 15 minutes ago was setting goals. What do you want to do? Where do you want to be? Start somewhere, take stock, get on a scale, get your body fat measured, look in the mirror. Just simply, I can't dictate anybody's goals for them, but start by setting goals. What do you hope to accomplish, and what will be your path? How will you get there?
It's so simple and so genius, but not a lot of people do it. Just look in the mirror and set some goals.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, I don't think we have any further questions for you today. It was awesome to have you on the show. We really appreciate you coming on, and hopefully I'll get the chance to be on one of your goddamn shows and do some stuff with you, and hopefully you have an opportunity to come up here to Super Training at some point.
What we'll do, go ahead.
I definitely appreciate the shout-outs to supertraining.tv because that's kind of our baby.
That's Jim's. That's Jim's baby.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you guys do a good job with that, and the content's great. Again, it's helping me with my deadlift. And Mark, when I come down, I'm gonna be down here till almost first week of January. When I get down there, I should have some time off the schedule. I'll load up the RV, come down, check out the Super Training gym, get some 411, and just shoot the shit. We'll do one of my podcasts. We'll talk about weightlifting. I've had a lot of fans want to ask me training questions. I can put a lot of people on a path, but this is, what you do for a living, so you could offer some valuable information to my listeners, but the background that you have. And so I enjoy being on the show. It's good talking to all of you. I appreciate you having me.
And don't forget, his name is Silent Mike. He won't shut the fuck up, and he needs a stunner or two.
I will stop a man named Silent Mike's ass, right? I gotta mess my old deal up. I can't
stomp a mud hole in him and walk it dry. I'll talk you through it.
Y'all's videos, you guys are ragging him up. I'm just kidding you, Silent Mike.
All right, man. Thanks again, and talk to you soon.
All right, you guys take care. I appreciate it.
Thanks so much.
Bye.
Normally we talk a bunch of shit right now, but that guy's kind of cool,
I can't talk any shit about him. I love him. He's awesome.
I'd have to say that I can't say he's an asshole.
I know.
No.
Ain't it the
can't
worst?
bring myself to do it.
No.
Probably just because I'm a nut swinger.
Yeah.
That could have something.
Yeah,
I was
Mark's had a
swinging
huge
hard.
chubby this
I had
whole
this
time. He's
huge-
poking me in the eye.
I had this huge rope, and I'm just swinging off his fucking balls right now.
God.
Oh! From one end to the other.
God damn.
Well, he said a lot of great things, and it's the same whether it's sports or whether somebody's successful in sports entertainment, wrestling, whether somebody's successful in the octagon or in lifting. It's always the same shit. It's the same story we keep hearing over and over and over again, and it's just stay on that grind, try to stay on your path the best you can, and the simple things are going to bring you to the results you're looking for.
Well, yeah, you asked him. You said, did you see yourself being a champ or whatever? And you and I talked about this before. Like, did he have any know-how that I'm going to be a champ? But he just wanted to freaking wrestle. He wanted to do what he wanted to do, and he said, without putting an emphasis on it, that he went through the ringer for 7 years and then started becoming who he was now.
Yeah, and it was probably actually a lot longer than that even.
Right.
I think the thing that makes him so genuine and him so great is that he's foolproof. Like, he's actually a great wrestler.
Yeah.
And sometimes today, in a time of, everybody wants everything to happen so fast. It's like pro football too. You guys don't always get a chance to develop.
Yeah.
Right. You don't get a chance to develop a Troy Aikman. Remember, Troy Aikman sucked. He was terrible.
Yeah.
Peyton Manning sucked. And you're not really seeing that. Now you got guys like RG3 has a couple bad games and everyone wants to kill him.
Well, yeah,
after
they come
a
out of
serious,
rookie and go nuts.
life-threatening injury or career-threatening injury. Yeah. And so Stone Cold is somebody who is foolproof. I mean, his in-ring work, whether you know wrestling or don't, if you watch his matches, they were just incredible. The intensity he brought to it, the passion he brought to it, on top of just always being in the right place at the right time. He knew what the fuck he was doing.
I think unless you've seen wrestling live, unless you've seen it in person, you don't really understand how
so many cutaways.
Yeah, exactly. You don't see what's necessary. What's necessary to sell it and for it to look good and
it's called entertainment wrestling or pro wrestling or whatever, but they're freaking stud athletes. Like, obviously Cena, I mean, that guy's strong as a bull. He played college football. Stone Cold played college football. They're freak athletes. They're muscular. They're athletic. They're agile. So it takes so much more than that. Like, yeah, there's an acting part of it, and
we probably have some different fans that are going to listen to this one. Some wrestling marks, some true fans of wrestling. Fans. Stone Cold fans and so on, and they're going to view certain guys as being the best or whatever, but I think everyone could agree that when it came to in-ring work and entertainment, there was no one better than Stone Cold in the history of wrestling. And that's why he was able to elevate the WWE. He was able to elevate everyone else's game. He had Hogan. Hulk Hogan was unbelievable in terms of entertainment value. And then, a lot of guys would say, well, his in-ring work sucked, and he was kind of lazy in the ring, and so on and so forth. Whatever. I'm a huge Hulk Hogan fan. I've always loved watching him. But he wasn't like Macho Man Randy Savage, who was a lot more athletic, brought a lot more to the table, or Bret Hart, who was a good mixture of athleticism and wrestling. There's a lot of different guys over the years, and I think that Stone Cold was the ultimate blend of that. And then you have The Rock, whose athleticism was just through the fucking roof.
Yeah.
And he could fucking do it all in the ring, and in terms of entertainment, he was off the fucking charts too. But I just think that Stone Cold is just a little bit more old school than that, even though The Rock grew up in the business.
Well, and you said he's writing a book about being a man. His character is like a bad motherfucker. He's a man. Like, that's just organic, and it's who he is. It's so cool.
Is it better to be a man's man or a ladies' man?
Oh, shit.
What
if you're a man's man, that's a ladies' man?
I was going to say, you got to do both at the same time.
That sounds like a Silent Mike recipe.
I think it should maybe be more like you're a macho man, like a macho guy. You're
Macho
you're studly,
man.
but you're not. A man's man would mean that other men are like, hey, like,
No hetero. No hetero. I'm a man's man.
No hetero, no homo.
No hetero. I'm a man's man.
A ladies' man. Hey, now.
I think that something I've noticed over the last few years, listening to interviews and stuff with wrestlers, they're kind of offline interviews, or not. They're talking more about their own lives, and it's how articulate so many of them are. And you think these are going to be meatheads, and I mean, Stone Cold, obviously a smart guy.
Right.
We've had Cena in here, obviously a smart guy. Lots of the others. CM Punk is pretty well spoken.
Yeah.
Jericho. It's Dwayne.
A lot of these wrestlers, they have a lot of other interests outside of wrestling, and you would like to think that somebody who's in the military or somebody who's in a sport like this, someone who's traveling a lot, you would like to think that they would learn a lot. It doesn't always turn out that way, but for most part, with the wrestlers, that's kind of what you end up seeing. You do have some of the guys who just live in the gym, they don't know anything else, and they go from their gym to their hotel to the match, and they don't know anything else that's going on. But for the most part, you see that they've lived. Stone Cold, I mean, that guy can tell you about anything.
Right.
Well, he's
That
at
guy
the
can
very
tell you
top
about
level.
That guy can tell you about any good situation. He can tell you about any bad situation.
Right. Well, he mentioned
I'm sure he's been in some really bad spots. you
Yeah,
know?
he mentioned his biggest mistake or whatever was a business mistake, Like,
Right.
when you're at the top level of anything, it doesn't matter if it's knitting to pro wrestling to whatever, winemaking, you're going to learn a lot to have to get there in business sense, marketing sense, your actual task or skill. I mean, you have to be well-rounded to be at the top.
And when you go back to what really sort of his time in the wilderness, when he was, he was with professional wrestling, but he wasn't being featured, didn't get any T-shirts, all that stuff. And after a while, you start to wonder, am I doing the right thing? Am I ever gonna?
Where's my spot? Where do I fit in?
Right. And
you don't want to be asking that every 5 seconds either. But.
No, but to actually persevere through that and then find an opportunity and exploit it to the extent that he did. That
was actually really cool hearing him explain that. The evolution of Austin 316. I don't think I've ever heard that before. I'm sure the information.
I've never heard it that way before.
I'm sure the information's flowing out there somewhere, but
No.
I've never heard him talk about it.
I forgot to ask him about his vests.
Oh yeah.
All he wears
Yeah,
is
the
his
leather
vests.
Yeah, the leather vest.
Yeah. He probably is wearing a hunting vest right
now.
now.
The most amazing outfit. He was wearing like a leather vest,
leather-
black panties.
Yeah, I think they're
and then
leather.
giant knee braces that like offensive linemen wear in the NFL, and then black boots.
I'm going to be freaking Stone Cold for Halloween.
He looks ridiculous.
Yeah, it was awesome.
He somehow figured out a way to pull
Yeah,
it
and still
off.
the baddest motherfucker in the ring, and he's dressed like a freaking village people.
This is all about how you carry yourself.
Yeah.
I forgot to ask him about what.
Yeah.
Well, we'll get him. Well, he'll be here.
Yeah.
A few months, he'll be
Yeah,
here.
we'll be deadlifting.
The evolution of what?
The inventor of what?
The inventor of what? All right. Well, I think that concludes another podcast.
For all our new listeners.
The next podcast will be with Katie Hogan and
Hulk Hogan's daughter.
I think about 75% of the show is going to be dedicated to her short shorts. Even though, it's my best friend's girlfriend.
Whatever.
I still think we have to get to the bottom of those short shorts.
Jesse Burdick will appreciate it all.
Yeah, I'm just fascinated.
I don't know. I hope we do a whole episode on just cold iron now. I thought of that on the spot. That wasn't even preemptive.
Cold iron.
That's a great name for a freaking lifting reality show.
You need to have, to really test it out and to see if it works, you need to have Matt Nickerson say it.
Oh, yeah.
Cold iron.
He'll sing us the intro to our TV show.
Exactly. That's the only way to see if it's really going to work. But we need to get to the bottom of Katie Hogan's short shorts, figuring out if she's wearing underwear underneath those things or what the hell's going on underneath
How
those.
would that be?
Is that underwear?
I have a good bear story to share with everybody, too. So please, guys, remind me about the bear story.
I reminded you about a story one time, and you forgot which story it was.
I know. Remind me about the bear story that involves Katie Hogan at the Mr. Olympia contest.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Because it's quite mind-boggling and fascinating.
I'm sure it is.
We'll save that up for next time.
Thanks, fans. You can hit me up at what the fuck's my Twitter?
Mark Smelly Bell.
Mark Smelly Bell.
There you go, at Mark Smelly Bell.
On Twitter, it's Silent Mike with 2 Ks.
And Jim McD STTV. And follow us at STGymSac, Facebook /Super Training Gym. Buy things to support this podcast. I can't say that strongly enough.
Supertraining.tv, now recommended by Stone Cold Steve Austin.
What? Stone Cold, actually, if you listen to his show, he does a really good job of integrating his
Listen to his show.
Yeah,
He's
listen
got a
to
great
his show. Absolutely. He does a really good job of handling guests, and he integrates his sponsorship and says it just like that. If you like this program, you need to keep it going. You need to support it, and that's where we live.
And I'm actually writing a little power section in his book for those of you that are interested to check out Stone Cold Steve Austin's book.
Subscribe to Power Magazine at thepowermagazine.com. If you choose the digital edition, you can catch up on all the great back issues, take your training to the next level with Sling Shot products and howmuchyoubench.net, and look for BSN products including NO Explode at bodybuilding.com. Mark Bell's PowerCast is a production of supertraining.tv.